So apparently, I don't look like a witch. It's a comment that I've seen coming in under some of our videos, especially the recent videos. Some of them were quite rude, so they have been taken off. But it's not a new thing either. It's just taken on like a new life lately, especially with the rise of witch talk and this like Pinterest perfect Instagram image of what a witch, scare quotes, is supposed to look like. Here's the problem with that. I am a witch. I'm an Irish witch, a Dree. And I've been walking this path for over like 30 years. So I didn't wake up one morning, find a spooky filter, and decide that this was my identity, that I was going to make it my whole personality. This isn't branding. This is who I am, how I live, and what I've dedicated my entire life to. And like, I get it, I do. People have this like idea in their heads, right? So that idea will often come from pop culture. Like maybe it's Stevie Nicks had a love child with a Celtic moon priestess, layered jewelry and like dramatic eyeliner, or like maybe it's flowing back to a little bit more formalized of like flowing black robes, like in, a certain wizard franchise, and I don't know, smoke bombs in a forest, for like the spooky wood creature feel or bog witch feel, or like a cauldron bubbling in a neon lit kitchen. Look, I've seen it all, and I know you have too. And the aesthetic is really interesting and really cool. But Irish witchcraft doesn't care how you look. It doesn't require a costume. It requires practice, literally doing it. Witchcraft is the practice of magic. So we're out here working with nature, with ritual, with symbols and intention to create change in accordance with will. That's witchcraft, using nature, rituals nature or rituals to create change in accordance with my will. That's how magic happens, right? That's the heart of it. So it's not about religion or who you worship or what you call yourself on social media. It's about showing up and doing the work. And I have been doing the work for most of my life. Now, some people think that because you're not part of a coven, or you don't follow Wicca, or you don't work with a particular pantheon of gods and goddesses, then you're not really a witch. I'm not Wiccan. I had my time in Wicca when I was 18 and I needed a spiritual support group. And it was great training in a lot of ways. Some of it was what I don't want, some of it was what I'm not. Learning that is very valuable too when you're that young. But Irish witchcraft is not Wicca. It's not ceremonial magic in green robes with shamrocks on it. Like, it's not an offshoot of British traditional practice with Irish names tacked on. It's not a tourist friendly blend of aesthetics and spirituality. Irish witchcraft is culturally rooted here in Ireland, on the island. It's shaped by our land, our language, our folklore, our history, our culture, our society, and our ways of seeing the world. It's relational, and that's a really big one. Irish magic is about relationships with place, with the other world, with your own sovereignty and your own will, with each other, with the animals and energies of the land. All of these things are relationships with the sacred sites, all of this, with the seasons, with the timelines, with the ancestors, all of that right relationship. And sometimes with the gods, guides, and guardians who are the sentient and autonomous beings that are part of this culture and heritage, definitely. But it's personal and it's very often solitary. For many of us, especially those of us raised in Catholic Ireland, it was also hidden. We called it something else or didn't call it anything at all, but the practice was there. And this is why we have these living traditions that are like quiet, consistent, and very deeply woven into the rhythms of our everyday life, still to this day on this island. Another mistake that people often seem to make is about gods and goddesses. And I just want to very much highlight that you don't need gods to be a witch. It's not a religion. I personally happen to work with a goddess, the Morrigan specifically, and I've been doing that formally for over 2 decades now. But I wasn't initiated by her. She didn't knight me in a field under a blood moon and make me, dub me an Irish witch. She recruited me. She needed something done, and I said yes. And she gave me a job, and that's it. I've been doing that work for her ever since. And yeah, working for a goddess of magic and prophecy has certainly shaped my life. But I was already a witch before that. I already understood what it meant to weave intention into action, to create those changes, to connect to the land as a living force, to speak words that carry power, and to work small spells and rituals that changed my reality every day. So I just want to talk about like this aesthetics program as well. Program? Problem, I meant. This aesthetics problem for a moment, because honestly, it's becoming more and more of an issue. The online witchcraft space, witch talk, all of that, especially over the last few years, has turned into a freaking theater, a performance. And it's become more about what you look like than what you do, and more about collecting shiny things from various cultures that are going to look good on your TikTok or Insta reels, how your altar photographs, how dramatic your rituals appear, whether your vibe matches your profile. And like, that's fine if you want to live your life like that. I'm not trying to take a dump on anybody who does enjoy that, right? Grand. But as long as you understand that that's surface stuff, that that is aesthetics, and that that's all it is, that's all it's ever going to be. Because if you think that that's what witchcraft is, you are missing the entire point. I'm sorry. But with Irish witchcraft, any witchcraft is not a trend. It's not cosplay. It's not like a blend of Irish names, Norse runes, and New Age slogans that function for spiritual bypassing. It's none of those things. It's a deep, ongoing practice that takes time, study, and lived connection. It asks you to build relationship, real relationship with the land, the lore, the language, the other world, and most importantly, your own self. You won't find that in a YouTube aesthetic compilation or a TikTok reel or anything like that. You might find it in the rain, though, in the stories that your grandmother told, in the stone that you picked up without knowing why and kept for years, in the old Irish word that echoes in your mouth when you say it out loud. So, what does a witch look like? They look like someone who's been doing this work for decades without needing to shout about it. They look like someone who honors their ancestors and the cultures, or hopefully a singular culture that they're drawing from and hopefully contributing back to, because that's part of right relationship. It looks like somebody who makes offerings at old wells and at sacred sites, offerings that aren't going to disrupt the local ecology, offerings that aren't going to do any harm to the old stones. Like if you're pouring a glass of wine out as a tribute and you're pouring it over the stone carvings at a sacred site, I'm not even going to explain that one. Like, if you can't figure out why that would be a bad thing to do, then look, Just really sit down and have a look in the mirror and have a think. Just give yourself a very stern talking to. A witch looks like someone who walks the land with respect, who knows how to listen, who knows when to act and when not to. Sometimes a witch is young, sometimes they're old, sometimes they wear black. I happen to wear black quite a lot of the time. Sometimes they wear jeans and a jumper and a hoodie, or, and are barefoot or in sandals or whatever. And sometimes they look like me, kind of queer, but generally just showing up to do the work. Generally, like I happen to have been out this morning, so I have a little bit of makeup on. The hair is doing okay, and I'm not wearing a hoodie. But honestly, it could have been. It's just take me as you find me. This is literally how I was, and I was even concerned about the video today. It looks like I've changed my appearance for this video, and I literally was out doing a photo shoot for my new book for the author picture on it. So that's what I was at this morning, and I'm here this afternoon back in the Irish Pagan School headquarters making this video for you, because I came back to comments and stress and all the rest of it. And so yeah, sometimes a witch looks like me because I am a witch, not because of how I look or don't look, but because of how I live and how I work. I have spent a very long time, being interviewed by the media, and every single time they ask me for an aesthetic photograph. And if you have access to any of the Irish media archives, you can look back and you can find photographs of me all through the years. Nowhere in that will you find a picture with a crystal ball or a broom. You'll regularly find pictures of me grumpy as fuck because I will have absolutely definitively stated that I won't be doing that for a newspaper or TV appearance. And when I arrive, the photographer just happens to have brought a cauldron in their boot, and there's a smoke bomb in it. So it doesn't make it into the photograph, but my grumpy face does because I'm so annoyed. But what about you? If you're here because you genuinely want to learn about Irish magic and witchcraft, not the fantasy version, but the actual living tradition, then you are very welcome. And I'm talking about Irish witchcraft being part of our culture, part of the traditions of this island. That doesn't mean that wherever you are in the world that you can't access it. Please look back at some of our other videos on the channel, especially ones like, does Laura O'Brien hate Americans, and cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation? And you can find a lot of information like that and a lot of questions being answered over and over and over and over again from people who think that just because we say that this is not an open tradition and a free for all, that we are excluding them or gatekeeping them, right? It is really not about that. What we've always said, what I've always said is if you want to learn from a culture, you need to learn from that culture. If you want to practice anything from a culture that you're not a part of, you need to go to source. And that's where you have to do your learning from. It doesn't have to be me, right? But find people from within that culture, find source material from within that culture, because anything else is a load of crap, right? Sorry, I know that there are definitely teachers, American teachers, English teachers who teach a lot about, Celtic traditions or Irish traditions. They are at least one step, but often multiple steps away from source. And again, it doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying I am the one true way, right? That's never what I'm saying. What I'm saying is on this island, we have a living culture and a living tradition of Irish witchcraft. And if you're not learning that from source, from here, from our folklore, from our mythology, from our teachers, from our historians, from our authors, from our YouTube content creators, from our TikTok profiles, right? If you're not learning from source, then you're not learning Irish witchcraft. You could be learning a totally different type of witchcraft. I'm not, again, taking a crap on anybody who is teaching anything else. It's not my lane. My lane is right here, Irish witchcraft. And within this lane, this is where we learn. We learn from sources directly on this island and connected to this island and flowing from this island. That's just the way it is. So, watch the comments now below. We're going to have all sorts of butthurt people who have completely not heard anything that I've said and have decided that Laura O'Brien hates Americans. So it's going to be a thing. It's always a thing. However, if you're here right to the end, then you know that that's not what I'm saying. I trust you, okay? I trust that the people who are supposed to hear this, who are supposed to be doing this work, who are supposed to be in right relationship with Ireland, with Irish witchcraft, who are supposed to bring the changes that can be caused by this work, by this practice, to wherever you are on this planet. There's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of value in it. So I want you to go out there and to be doing this work in an authentic way because it's very powerful. And the change that can be created is very sorely needed right now. Think activism, think socialism, think protection, think, the what's usually called the dark side of magic. All of those are part of the Irish tradition. And all of them are very sorely needed and very effective right now, whether you're regulating yourself or symbolically blowing things up elsewhere. Okay? So I want you to learn Irish witchcraft. I don't want you to have a witchcraft aesthetic. So if you're just here for the aesthetic, if that's all it is for you, grand. But don't be calling yourself an Irish witch because you're not doing the work. Okay? So that is what we do here. We teach this real stuff, the hard-won knowledge, the practical skills, the deep cultural connections. That's what the Irish Pagan School is all about. That's what my Morrigan Academy work is. That's what my Ogham Academy work is. I offer the truth, not the trend. And if you're open to that, well, then I don't care what you look like either. You can look like anything you want. So slán go fóill, and I will see you in the next video.